Hello guys and welcome back to Hiring Guru Official. Our today's video is going to be very special as I'll show you how you can crack any job interview in a single attempt. The details provided in this video are so powerful that if you prepare for an interview the way I've explained, you can literally force or convince the hiring manager to hire you. The entire video is based on two key ideas. First, make them listen to what they want to hear. And secondly, if you think and prepare like a candidate, then the results will be what the hiring manager wants. But if you think and prepare like the hiring manager, then the results will be what you want. And in this video, you will literally learn everything that it takes to clear an interview in a single attempt with ease. Let's get started. Guys, have you ever wondered why "tell me something about yourself" question is always the first question asked in an interview? And why interviews usually end with questions like,
सैलरी कितना लोगे भैया डिस्कस कर लें.
Typically, almost हर interview में एक specific interview format follow किया जाता है, which is divided into different stages where question after question, recruiters continue to gather required information about you, and based on your answers, they make a final decision on whether to hire you or not. And if you really want to get hired, you must first understand the interview format and start thinking like a hiring manager by focusing on the key things that matters to them a lot and prepare accordingly. So basically, during interviews, recruiters mainly focus on three important things. And if they do not find these three things to be okay in a candidate, they don't hire them. I'll explain each of these three things to you in detail, one by one. Let me start with the easiest point first, so that I can set the stage and ensure that we're on the same page. So our first point is eligibility check. Let me quickly go ahead and explain you what does eligibility check means. Why does it matter so much to the recruiters, and the type of questions that typically ask to gather the necessary information. Guys, eligibility check means making sure that the candidate who is attending the interview is suitable and his profile matches the job requirements. So it is absolutely necessary for the company and the HR to conduct an eligibility check because different job profiles may have different eligibility criteria. In some processes, undergraduate freshers are eligible, while in others, only graduates or people with minimum 6 months to 1 year of experience is mandatory. Let me share 3 real-time situations to make you understand why it is so crucial. Number 1, imagine a situation where a candidate is applying as an experienced professional who claims to have more than 30 months of relevant experience. He clears all the interview rounds, and at the time of documentation, he discloses that he doesn't have an experience letter from his previous organization. Let's assume he absconded or left without intimating anyone. Since he cannot arrange the relevant papers to prove his experience, the company won't be able to offer him a salary hike or this position, as it was only for the experienced candidates. Thus, his profile will be automatically declined and he won't be able to join the organization. Let's take a look at another example. In this second situation, a graduate fresher clears an interview, and during documentation, the company gets to know he has a couple of backlogs and he is yet to appear for the same. Again, he can't join the company since he is not yet graduated. In a third situation, candidate lives in a non-hiring zone, but he wasn't aware of the same, and it was never discussed during an interview, and since he lives with his family, he can't relocate. Hence, he would also not be able to join the company. Guys, I've just taken these 3 cases from real-life scenarios to help you understand the day-to-day recruitment challenges. Trust me, companies में और recruitments में daily ऐसे बहुत सारे cases आते हैं with different issues where candidate's profile simply doesn't match or fulfill the job requirements. That's why it is absolutely necessary for the companies to perform the baseline eligibility check right at the beginning by asking relevant eligibility check questions to identify such cases and decline them in the initial stage to save time, resources, and efforts for everyone and ensure that the efforts are done only on the right candidates. Now let's quickly take a look at the type of questions HRs typically ask to conduct the baseline eligibility check. So to experienced candidates, they may ask questions like, what and how much experience do you have? This question helps them understand if the candidate has the relevant and required experience for a particular job profile. Second, when did you leave your last organization? This is to understand the employment gaps in the profile, as in certain cases, few companies एक specific time के बाद gaps consider नहीं करती and they will decline the profile. Question number 3, do you have all the required education and work experience documents, including your mark sheets and experience letter? These questions are asked to get the precise information on the doc's status of the candidate and are very, very crucial. Next question is, where do you stay? This is to check if the candidate stays within the hiring zone. Guys, I've already created a list of some eligibility check questions for both freshers and experienced candidates, जो आपकी screen पे अभी show हो रहे होंगे. Please take a moment to read them or take a screenshot to read them later. Guys, remember, typically, the baseline eligibility check is done by the HRs. And usually, interviews consist of two major rounds, HR round and operations round. I'm excluding any written tests or verbal assessments for the time being because वो rounds अलग हैं और उनकी briefing बिल्कुल अलग होती है. And as I said earlier, we'll start with the easiest point first, and now it's time for us to move on to our second point जहाँ से interview की real game start होती है. So our second and third point is going to be very crucial from the operations or final round point of view. Guys, by the way, HR round के कुछ और भी important questions हैं, which I'll cover right after explaining point number 2. Basically, the briefing for the ops round questions in our next point also includes a discussion of the HR round questions. So I thought of not wasting time by explaining the same thing twice. So our point number 2 is skill check. As the name suggests, they will assess your skills, most importantly, your customer handling and communication skills. Since you'll be applying for an international process where your key responsibilities will be to interact with international customers through calls or through chats or through emails, they would definitely like to check how comfortable you are with English. This includes checking your grammar and thought process. Thought process means your ability to express your thoughts or ideas through words. जो आप सोच रहे हो, कहना चाहते हो, समझाना चाहते हो, can you actually express them through words? So even if you're going for a non-voice process, they will check your communication skills because you'll have to interact with customers in English on real-time basis through non-voice channels. बहुत सारे कैंडिडेट्स को लगता है कि non-voice process के लिए इंग्लिश अच्छी नहीं भी होगी तो चलेगा, but that's not true because it is globally believed that someone who can speak well would be able to write well too. And the fastest way of assessing somebody's communication skills is by engaging them in a conversation. At the same time, मेरा इस point पे थोड़ा सा mixed opinion है because I know so many candidates out there who can write very well but can't speak equally good. But that's probably not the way companies think, and that's exactly is the reason why HR and operations round are conducted verbally rather than in writing. Let's check out few questions which they may ask to check your comm skills. Let me start with the experienced candidates questions. Guys, tell me something about yourself question is typically the first question asked by the recruiters in an interview. ये question बहुत important है और बहुत अच्छे से prepare करना चाहिए as it provides them with a lot of key information like qualification, work experience, confidence level, communication skills, and more. So based on the candidate's response, they decide how much time they should spend with the candidate to check their skills further. So a well-prepared and rehearsed introduction leads them to focus less on communication skills. While a shaky one where candidate lacks the confidence and have broken speech pattern. Broken speech means candidate atak ke bol rahe and he is not able to express himself properly. So all these issues create doubt in the recruiter's mind about your ability to communicate well. So उनको लगता है कि जो इतने basic question का answer properly नहीं कर सकता उससे communication skills खत्म होंगे. So they either stop the interview right there, or if at all they decide to move ahead with the interview, they'll start asking other questions to deep dive into your communication abilities. So generally, in order to check your comms, they will start asking open-ended questions where you cannot say a simple yes or a no or give 1 or 2 word answers and try to close the conversation quickly. You will literally be forced by the recruiters to give elaborated answers. Open-ended question पूछने का idea यही होता है कि आप जितना ज़्यादा बोलोगे उतना better होगा उनके लिए आपकी grammar, vocabulary और overall communication skills check करने का. So if you really want to avoid all this situation, there is no way under the great heavens that you can mess up with your tell me something about yourself question. It has to be prepared very well if you want to avoid all these situations. So to be on a safer side, let me give you 3 more questions which you should prepare thoroughly along with your self-introduction if you really want to win their confidence. Questions are like, why do you want to work with our organization? This question helps them in checking your communication plus how much you know about them. Another one is, why should we hire you? Again, the purpose remains the same. They want to check your communication skills and how well you can sell yourself in an interview. Plus, be ready with the questions related to your weaknesses or strengths. And if you're applying as a fresher, then you must prepare all these questions which I just discussed along with the questions like, what do you understand by customer service? Or why do you want to work with BPOs? Guys, यहाँ तक तो situation बिल्कुल usual और normal है. But उनको अगर किसी कैंडिडेट के communication skills पर seriously doubt लगता है, तो वो स्टार्टिंग में ही उस कैंडिडेट को एक टॉपिक दे देते हैं बोलने के लिए for at least a couple of minutes so that they can check his grammar and his thought process to save their time. Guys, I won't verbally cover the answers of all these questions which I just discussed because if I start discussing answers, then this video will become too long. By the way, I've already created separate videos on all these questions where I've explained everything in details and all these topics or videos are available on my channel. I will share the link of all these videos in the description box for you to check out. Or if you wish, you can visit my channel and watch all these videos later. So by asking all these different questions, not only will they get a fair idea about your communication skills, but at the same time, they get a lot of other information about you as well, like your confidence level, how mature you are as an employee, what sets you apart from others, and what you can bring to the table for them, and so on. So जो भी questions हमने discuss किए हैं अभी तक इस point में, I've created a list of all those questions and few additional questions. You can either pause this video to read them or take a screenshot and read them later. Guys, just before we move on to our next and final point, I want to tell you something very important. Recruiters do not ask the same question to every candidate. इस बात को थोड़ा सा लॉजिक लगाकर समझना. Just as every profile and candidate is different, HR and operations manager भी अलग अलग होते हैं. उनकी सोच अलग होती है, उनकी अप्रोच अलग होती है, उनके इंटरव्यू लेने की टेक्निक अलग होती है. And each recruiter has their own favorite set of questions they prefer to ask the candidate to gather the necessary information. Basically, question changes according to the candidate's experience, their profile, and the process that they are applying for. For example, if a candidate has employment gap, then the recruiter's main focus will be on finding out the exact reason for the gap, and they will ask questions accordingly. Similarly, for someone who wants to change his career or industry completely, then they will ask him a different set of questions altogether. So interviews में पूछे जाने वाले questions literally में बहुत सारे factors पे depend करते हैं, as the same questions does not apply to everyone, every time, everywhere. My entire focus right now is on making you understand the recruiter's thinking and psychology and what and how we should prepare for an interview. Let's move on to our next and final point. Point number 3, stability check. Guys, after skill check, what matters the most to the operations manager is the stability. Trust me, you'll be thoroughly grilled by the operations manager on this aspect. Stability check का मतलब है ये check करना that how long the candidate will work with our company or what reasons can be there for them to leave our company. So the big question is, why does stability even matter so much to the companies? Why don't companies just hire a new resource and fill the vacant position? So basically, होता क्या है, when an employee joins any company, he undergoes 2 to 3 months of rigorous training, where they learn the necessary skills and procedures required for their role. And the best part is, it will be a paid training. On top of that, companies candidate के साथ कोई contract भी sign नहीं करती, which means they are free to leave the company at any time. Now just imagine a situation where a candidate joins the company, undergoes the paid training, and after his training, he realizes that this is not his cup of tea, and he ends up leaving the job. So, ऐसे case में, the companies loses out on the entire training cost of the candidate that includes his 2 to 3 months of salary, plus other admin expenses like his transport and training costs and so on. That's why the recruiters keep a close watch on the candidate's stability, since they don't want to hire someone who is not going to stick with the company for a longer period of time. So in order to check the stability of the candidate, they ask a set of questions which are directly linked with the stability concerns. Let me share some example questions along with the reasons why these questions are asked. मैं सबसे पहले सबसे easy question से start करता हूँ to make you understand and to create the required base. Question बहुत ही छोटा सा और easy सा है, but it's actually a tricky one. Are you okay with night or rotational shifts? Guys, to be honest with you, not everyone is okay with rotational shifts. Some candidate claims that their family doesn't allow them to work in night shifts, and some can't work during the night due to the health issues. So basically होता क्या है, जब candidate इन questions का answer दे रहा होता है, and in his response, if they get a little hint that the candidate is not sounding confident about working in odd-hour shifts and is more inclined towards working in general or day shifts, then they proactively decline such profiles because they don't want to spend money on someone's training who cannot work as per the business requirements. And guys, to be honest with you, take it as an advice. If you're not comfortable with shifts, then don't opt for international process jobs, because in such processes, you are required to provide support to UK, US, Australian or Canadian customers who lives in a completely different time zone where you'll have to work as per their preferred time. They won't work as per yours. Don't say yes right now for the sake of getting a job offer. In international processes, shifts usually changes every month, and you never know, your training may happen during the night. Another question that is directly connected with the stability concern is, how much salary are you looking for? Guys, this is another big stability check question, because candidates usually need jobs for a small percent of salary hike, or at times candidates recruiters के साथ बहुत aggressively salary negotiate करना start कर देते हैं, which starts raising questions about their stability. Recruiters को लगता है कि candidate is not okay with the offered salary, and after cracking their interview, candidate may also try for other companies, and the moment they get a better option, they will join them. Guys, I'm not saying that you should not negotiate your salary, but there is a proper way of doing so. Guys, point to be noted, for executive level or frontline hiring, companies often have a pre-decided salary ranges for both freshers and experienced candidates. और मैंने कंपनीज को बहुत कम देखा है सैलरी पर एक्सेप्शन देते हुए because they don't want to exceed their maximum salary range. So it's absolutely okay if you want to negotiate your salary, but just make sure you're not sounding too pushy. Also, just make sure that your salary negotiation falls within the pre-decided range of the company. And somehow, if you feel that the salary offered by the company as per the job description is not matching your expectations, so you should not originally apply for such jobs since the company cannot fulfill your expectations. But if you have still applied for the job despite knowing all the situations, this means I'm assuming that you're somewhat interested. So focus on getting the best salary by negotiating nicely, but avoid being pushy. Let's move on to our next question. What are your future plans? This is another crucial but a very blunt and a tricky stability check question. Blunt and tricky means यहाँ पर hiring manager आपसे बात घुमाकर पूछ रहा है, how long would you work with us? आपको भी question थोड़ा सा अलग लग रहा होगा, but once you answer the original question regarding your future plans, he will automatically get the answer to his hidden question. और ये सेम क्वेश्चन बहुत अलग अलग तरीकों से ही पूछा जाता है, लाइक वेयर डू यू सी योरसेल्फ 5 years from now, और व्हाट डू यू वांट टू अचीव इन लाइफ. All these questions have one purpose, and that is to find out how long would you work with us. Let me explain you through an example. Imagine you own a small or a medium-sized business and want to hire a few employees for customer service roles. So during an interview, you ask one of the candidates about his future plans, and the confident and ambitious candidate says, I have some excellent startup plans in my mind, but unfortunately, I'm not getting any financing right now. So for the time being, I plan to kickstart my career in this industry and support myself and my family financially while continue to work hard to fulfill my dreams. Another candidate says, I want to go to Canada for further studies, but as you know, visa formalities and finding the right university may take some time. So for the time being, I want to get into this job to learn and improve my skills. Guys, trust me, I can share 20 more such examples where people say a lot of creative and ambitious things during interviews to sound productive and impressive. Now it's time for you to think as a business owner, considering your training costs, resources, time and effort you would invest in candidates training. Would you like to hire someone who doesn't consider this profession or your company or the profile he's applying for as their ultimate career? I guess you already got your answer. ऐसे candidates jobs बहुत जल्दी छोड़ देते हैं and they will give you a serious financial loss. So hiring manager will somewhat ask similar questions to find out if you plan to stay with them for a longer period of time or leave the job soon. I know it's very difficult to predict how long a particular candidate will stay, and at times even the most stable looking candidates surprise employers with their resignations. But my point is, someone who proactively talks about different careers or opportunities, they're more likely to leave jobs because they will keep on exploring options outside, and the moment they get the right opportunity, they will for sure say bye-bye to you compared to others who see this industry as their career. Guys, I'm not saying that you should lie during an interview. All I'm trying to make you understand is use your head. Be a little diplomatic. हमें उनको वो सुनाना है जो वो सुनना चाहते हैं. जैसे मैंने वीडियो की स्टार्टिंग में बोला था, make them listen to what they want to hear. There is no point in discussing plans that are still in pipeline or may take some time to materialize. Instead, frame your answer to reflect that this line of business offers good career and growth opportunities, and that is the reason you're there for an interview. Hope this explanation must have added some value. Let's move on to our next crucial stability check question. Reason for leaving your last job. Reason of leaving is another important and a tricky stability check question for experienced candidates. Companies often believe that your reason for leaving your last job could also be the reason of leaving their company as well. So let me share 3 mistakes that you must avoid while answering this question. Number 1, avoid criticizing or speaking negatively about your previous boss or company. If you badmouth your previous employer, your new boss might think you will do the same when you leave their company. So it's always good to stay professional and diplomatic. Number 2 is don't make complaints about co-workers or colleagues and try to prove that they were the main reason for leaving your previous job. Remember, employers are looking for problem solvers and not those who bring problems. Number 3 is, well, it's okay to talk about heavy workload, but avoid making it sound like you could not handle stress or pressure, as it may raise concerns about your ability to handle challenges during day-to-day responsibilities. Guys, I know हर किसी का जॉब छोड़ने का रीजन अलग होता है, बट उस रीजन को ढंग से समझाना भी बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट होता है. And to help you give a good answer, I've already created a detailed video on this topic, which covers all the crucial mistakes to avoid while answering this question, and I've provided 3 top answers to help you justify your separation. Guys, now it's time for me to share a list of all these questions which we have discussed in this video so far for freshers and experienced candidates. सारे questions की list आपकी screen पे show हो रही होगी. You can either pause this video to read them or take a screenshot and read them as per your convenience. As I mentioned earlier, the questions completely depends on the candidate's profile and background. And being a final decision maker, ऑपरेशंस मैनेजर जो सही लगेगा आपकी प्रोफाइल के हिसाब से वो आपसे वैसे क्वेश्चन पूछने वाला है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, ही मे आस्क यू, कुड यू प्लीज एक्सप्लेन योर प्रीवियस कंपनीज प्रोसेस और KRAs. KRAs means key responsibility areas. Guys, I honestly wanted to add a few more questions in this video, but video already बहुत लंबा हो गया है. So for now, I'm adding some additional questions to this list which must be showing up on your screen. But the good news is we have already covered more than 90% of probable questions they may ask in the interview. I'll be back soon with part 2 where I'll brief you on pending or additional questions. Bye now.